to get into the meat and bones of today's conversation, Sam has a wealth of experience that we'd love to explore and dive deep into.
100%.
And the main topic of today's pod is more so centered around AI and how we can use AI in today's SEO environment. You know, where are we at today? What's going to work in today's environment, as well as what you're seeing in the future. But before we dive into all of that fun stuff, we want to learn a little bit more about what you've learned at optimizing. So you used to be there for a couple of years.
Yeah.
What were the top 3 things that you think our viewers could take away in terms of lessons that you learned at optimizing?
Yeah, interesting. Like, it's funny because that was definitely a different part of my career. Like, anybody who's worked agency and in-house knows it's like a super different environment. And it's really good to see agencies from the other side, because you have that knowledge of how agencies work. And then, you can see, like, I think agency side, you've always got to be the expert, and there's always like, so you can see that from the other side, from those sort of interactions. I think probably at optimizing, one of the key things that I learned is that SEO is part of a broader business strategy, right? And when you go in and you speak to a business owner, you have to really understand their story and what they're trying to achieve with search. And it's very, very tempting, and as an SEO, to just crawl a website, plug it into Screaming Frog, go on it and have a look and just like tear the whole thing down and spit out like a huge amount of recommendations. But the reality is you have to ask those questions, like, what dev capabilities do you have? What content do you have? And also, I used to just prime people and say, like, I think SEOs a lot, they go, you spend 10 times on paid what you spend on SEO, but the ROI is huge. Like, the reality is that SEO is actually, it's expensive and it's slow. And for me, it was just to understand the business, one, and then also prime them and say, like, this is how you're going to get the best out of me, and say, if you can unblock me on content, if you can unblock me on dev, we're going to get 10 times the amount done.
Yeah. So, like, I guess framing the pace of SEO to your actual client, and then also, I guess, letting them get out of your way because you're the expert in order to push things through faster, just to let you do your thing.
Yeah, for sure.
What you're saying?
Yeah, for sure. And also as well, just, I think because SEO can be very technical sometimes, and it can be seen as like a little bit of a, dark art, or definitely in business owners see it that way. Like, I think it's very, very easy to kind of lean into that rather than working with a business owner and kind of explaining the mechanism of how it works,
Yeah, definitely. I think Lawrence and I talk about that a lot, how there's so much mysticism around SEO. It's
for sure.
It's almost like magic to some people, right?
Yeah,
so you use the word unblock. Is that a SEO sort of unblock the crawlers pun, or
no,
just
no fun at all.
A priming word?
No fun at all.
So you clued into really more of the client communications, or just the communications in general, to really push things through rather than presenting like a mathematical equation for SEO. Is that how you dealt with getting things through and getting results?
And I think it's also like recognizing what's going to help a business owner in that moment, rather than trying to push through your agenda. Being realistic about what they can achieve and being realistic about what's going to be useful to them. Like, I think a lot of business owners go in and they're like, I need an audit, and it's like, you've got 20 pages. Like, what could be going wrong? Do you know what I mean? There's like really, really guiding a business owner on what they need, rather than kind of hiding behind SEO as some kind of like, dark art or something like that.
Can I ask you as well, Sam? Like, when you do that, you're like, business owner comes in, hey, my objective is I want to get 20,000 visitors per month to my site, and I want to generate $1 million in revenue. And you say to them, John, I think that's, fantastic, but you're giving me a 1 year time frame. Realistically, what I need is maybe like 3 years. And in that time frame, I can only probably get you 6,000 organic visitors per month and half of that revenue. When you say that to them, do you find that a lot of business owners pull out because their targets weren't as achievable as they first initially thought when they first came to you?
I think like agency side, I was very lucky in that the guys at Optimizing were really good at priming people and sort of setting expectations and things like that. Like, I think that is the difference between being agency and in-house, right? Like agency, a lot of people have already done the selling for you. And if you have somebody who has that really great balance of like if they're not just chasing leads desperately and saying, yeah, we can 10x your revenue or whatever, and they're being realistic about the growth and they know about search rather than just really pushing for sales, I think a lot of the expectation setting has been done for you. And as long as you're kind of tied into what they want to achieve, I think it can be pretty smooth. Whereas if I contrast that with being in-house, like what I suppose I didn't realize about being in-house is like, there are a lot of people that just won't even know what SEO is, you know? So when you go to XYZ team and say, hey, I want to do this, and they go, well, you know, we're in Q2 already and we've had this locked in for 18 months. Like, what are you going to do for me? And it's like, actually you spend a lot of time sort of selling your initiatives and, you know, and like, that's the, like actually being able to make projections and be realistic and see where SEO is a growth opportunity, you know, because sometimes it might not be the best ROI or the best place to focus on considering resources. Like, I think that's the kind of real art.
Definitely. I think that's a like hallmark sign of a really mature SEO as well, is when you're really young in your career, you're very like, let me do whatever I can to game the SEO system. Let me cram keywords in. Like, I don't care about UX, smash backlinks. Yeah. But then as you get older, you realize that like you're really dealing with a human being on the other side in a real business.
Point, for sure.
And you really need to like look at it from a holistic point of view, right?
People just want to work with people they like. So I think genuinely, and I've talked about this before in separate channels, it's just, you know, if you're communicating well with someone, you can actually get results just purely through having a really solid relationship. Because if they trust you, they're going to be more likely to do the things that you ask of them, right? So when it comes to like saying, hey, no to this migration because it's going to impact the results, if they trust you because they feel that deep sense of expertise, plus you have their back as a business owner or even like a massive corporate company, they go, you know what, we maybe should double think this. Because the number of times you experience, hey, we've got a migration in a month, literally, and it's a €100,000 website, and they haven't talked to you first because they just don't refer to the expertise within the business.
Oh,
I don't know if has this happened to you?
The best is, so we're migrating tomorrow morning. Is there anything we need to do from like an SEO point of view? Like, are the URLs the same? I don't think so. I'll ask the devs.
SEO catastrophe.
Happens so much. You know?
It's
2-week turnarounds, 1-week turnarounds. It's happening tomorrow. It's these are critical business decisions, and if they're not involving some level of SEO expert within the business, especially if you're quite large, if you're a household name in Australia and you don't have an SEO team, it's like at this day and age, like what are you doing really? Like you got to have some component or someone who just knows what to do in those situations. You know, in America they have Walmart and a lot of these big providers, they got 10 people working in an SEO team. In Australia is really far behind in that aspect.
Biggest companies in Australia literally have like one SEO manager and like that's it. Maybe some agency support.
But I think in spaces like finance, financial health, they do, you know, it's obviously why you have this in-house role is because they actually, there's a lot at stake, especially in insurance as well, and things like that. But it's good to see. It like fundamentally it is good to see.
I got a number for you, which is pretty interesting. You know, Canva? I think they have more than 150 SEOs.
What?
Yep.
That's pretty
I've been through their LinkedIn.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts.
Yeah, 150.
To do what?
At all levels, like
link
content.
outreach?
Yep,
like,
links is a big part.
I think they have whole teams for keyword research. Like,
you ever see that case study? It was one of like the first product-led SEO case studies. Where they talked about how they built out template pages. Like this is one of the first big waves of this talk going through the industry. And and the links they got off that was insane. Just been building out templates for Mother's Day, Valentine's Day, cards, any type of postcard. They were just building out templates like crazy, and the effects speak for themselves. They're billions of dollars.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
And it makes sense. They have a massive SEO team.
Yeah, how nice would that be working with like 150 other SEOs rather than being like the sole SME, you know?
Yeah, that's like one of the hardest parts of being an SEO sometimes, especially in-house, is like there's no other use around. No one gets you, or very, very few people get you.
But it can be a good thing. You know, you're a little solo operator.
Yeah.
You know, they pull you in when there's big things happening and you get to like show your